Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Inspiral's 100 Diverse Stories. If you're watching this, we are already in 2025 and we have surpassed 50 stories and are looking forward to tell another 50. So thank you for being on this journey with us. Our guest today is another woman who has built a business on her own terms. Her name is Nupur Amin, and she is the founder of Beyond Scale, an organization that equips founders and leaders to build resilient teams and systems. Through her company, Nupur provides executive coaching, team training, and systems design, particularly in areas that are super complex, like negotiation, difficult conversations, and leadership development. Nupur herself is a negotiation expert, having taught the program herself at Harvard Law School. And while building Beyond Scale, she is also a resident consultant and coach for Greentown Labs, the largest climate tech incubator in North America. A busy woman for sure, but one who is creating loads of impact in the entrepreneurial and corporate space. Thank you so much, Nupur, for joining us today. I look forward to hearing your story and have you share your experience of building this on your own terms.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Of course. Well, let's start from the very first part of your journey. How did this business idea find you?
It found me because I've been in consulting for quite a while. And one of the things that I noticed about young startup founders, which is kind of the primary audience that I work with, is that there's quite a mismatch between what what they actually experience and know and feel confident about doing and what the rest of us kind of expect them to know and feel confident doing. And I feel like the stakes are really high when young startup founders find or are paired with kind of very senior, very high level technical consultants.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I try to focus on is, can we share the experience of being young and not knowing a lot? And so one of the things that I try to tell clients when we work together a lot is there is an unrealistic expectation on founders of any kind to know everything, to know your business plan and your accounting and your go-to-market strategy and how to grow your team, just everything, in a way that we don't expect in other businesses. You know, we don't expect lawyers to fix their own cars, and we don't expect engineers to do their own surgeries. And so this expectation that's on kind of startup founders is really heavy. And that's where the idea came from, the idea that I want to create a consulting business where I say, I'm really good at what I do and I can take it off your hands, and you're really good at what you do and you should do that. And together we can kind of play our part in supporting whatever mission it is that we're trying to support.
I so love that you said that. There is very truly, as you said, there is this unspoken pressure that whenever you walk into a room, whether it's to pitch or whether it's to just talk about your idea in a room full of people, people expect you to have A to Z figured out, which is actually the
Yeah.
opposite of being an entrepreneur, right? Because you're supposed to
Yeah.
learn along the way. So I'm just glad that you have set this up to help entrepreneurs on this journey, because I'm sure many people, including myself, could benefit from something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one other thing that's I found really fun about this is I think it helps normalize the idea that sometimes I just need some help or need somebody else to figure something out or to give me advice or to say whatever it is that I need to know. I walk into spaces a lot, especially working with a lot of science and tech founders, to say, I have no idea how to do math or science. I'm extremely poor at logical math skills, but very good at understanding how to grow organizations, how to make decisions, how to scale teams. And so I think normalizing the like, we can just divide this work and do what we do best is really great.
Love that. Love that. My next question for you is how did you then take this idea forward? One thing that a lot of people struggle with is, okay, I've noticed a problem. I now have an idea of something that I want to pursue, but you kind of stop there because obviously building a business is also daunting and scary, and you kind of don't know what next step to take. How did you deal with that ambiguity and how did you start?
I think that one thing that's really helpful and was really helpful for me is starting when you have something else that you're doing already. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs start like this. And so we have our jobs and we're just kind of tinkering on the side. I think it really reduces the pressure of figuring it out really, really quickly. So that was definitely helpful. But the second thing I think was um, I asked a lot of people, this is what I think is happening, or this is what I think I'm seeing. Do you generally feel this way, or am I wrong? Or is my sample size skewed, or what's going on? Why am I feeling this, or why am I seeing this? And why are you not? Or why are you? And so I think one of the things that, like you said, is ingrained in us is, oh, I have a business idea. I know everything about it. I have the market research. I know the use case. And in this scenario, I think it's really helpful to just say, if you found a consultant who was a little bit younger, a little more holistically thinking, a little more empowering in terms of everyone kind of doing their own specialty, would you prefer working with them or would it make you feel on edge? Would it make you feel nervous? Or would you like that? Would it be a welcome change? And just kind of surveying and talking to trusted people. I think that's a really good foundation. And then the one step after that that was really helpful is asking some friends to do demos and just saying, is it okay if I test this theory out on you? Or can I have an hour with your team to talk to them about their experience growing as an organization or developing as professionals? And if we use our network to kind of get a little foot in the door, just to say, I have one small idea. Could I test it for an hour, for a day, for a week with you or your team? I think that was really confidence boosting for me.
I think those are really, really helpful tips for all our listeners on this podcast because you brought up some really important points there. I'll just summarize it, but I think you said it really nicely. The first part was about being a part-time founder. It can actually be a blessing in disguise, like you said, because you have this financial security that you don't have to worry about, so you can be free to be creative. I mean, to each his one's own, but I find that personally very liberating as well. And the other piece that you touched on, which I think is really important, is talking to your customers. The earlier you do that, the smaller you test, the better. On
Yeah.
that topic, when you were speaking to people and getting all these different pieces of feedback, how did you filter through the feedback and know what is the right direction to take your business in?
That's a great question. I think I certainly fell into the trap very early on of saying every piece of feedback is critical, is mission critical, is the end all be all. And so I had a moment where someone said, this is great. And then I was like, okay, great, this is going to work. And then someone says, I don't really know about this. And then I was like, oh, it's failing. And then I actually switched gears into thinking, is there a way for me to parse out who am I talking to? What kind of organization are they running? Um, are they my ideal customer? Or if not a complete package of my ideal customer, what parts of them or their business would I like to work with? And then I would ask them kind of the follow up. So I think this like second stage of talking to customers is actually quite useful because our first stage is so focused on the perfect demo, the perfect presentation, the perfect pitch. And then we get their feedback. And I think we tend to just say, okay, I've gotten the feedback and now I'm going to refine and move on. But I actually have found a lot of value in saying, okay, I've gotten your feedback. I have questions. Can you give me some more information? And then saying, okay, now I've learned what worked and what didn't work. Can I try again and see if it works better? And so the idea of not every single customer is your ideal customer. And I do believe in starting a business with ideal customers as much as we can find them in terms of personality and composition, because they make entrepreneurship enjoyable. And I think it builds some resilience to then deal with some more difficult customers down the line. So that's how I approached it.
That's so true. You need the early believers and the adopters who will trust you and probably spread the word as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I really like what you said about that second stage of customer discovery, like narrowing it down to whose insights or whose opinions actually matter the most
Yeah.
at this point, right? Because you can then expand later on. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Speaking of feedback, so once you have that, if we move along the next train of thought, were there moments while you were growing beyond scale that you realized, oh, I'm doing this wrong and I need to switch the way I do things, even if it was in small things, that the way you operated the business?
Definitely. I think the biggest one that I fell into was the very early stage scarcity mindset of just like, I don't have customers, I don't have clients. And so anyone that's interested will make it work, will make their budget work, will make their timeline work. And I think, I lasted a few months before I started getting really frazzled in that process. And one thing that I learned to do that has worked really well, and I still do to this day, is to look at three things. One is the client persona. So what type of client are they? Are they the kind of person who's looking for a consultant to collaborate with? Are they the kind of client who's looking for a consultant to validate their decision? Which type of client persona are we dealing with? The second one was what type of work is their business doing? And where is it on my personal excitement scale? And so I have some clients who are doing work where I just say, oh God, this is so cool. I really understand what you're doing. I understand what the mission is, and I'm really behind it. And some where I say, you're really cool people. I have no idea what you're doing, in fact. And I think that they're weighted a little differently. And so it really helps prioritize, even when I'm trying to develop the business or the product, to say, let me look at the people who are the right persona and the right impact or work. And then that brings me to the third criteria that I look at, which is what type of relationship are they looking for? Because I think that evaluating folks off of, are you looking for someone to build ideas with you over time versus looking for someone who's going to come in and solve a problem? Both are really valid and both are really fun in different ways. But I think it really helps us balance I know I can do 3 long-term relationships at a time and 3 short-term relationships at a time. So then I'm not burning out or frazzled or taking on too much work.
The next question for you is on the journey of being a solopreneur. So you're a solopreneur right now, and a lot of the women I speak to on a daily basis as well who are interested in the Inspiral community, a lot of them talk about the loneliness that comes with being a solo founder. What are some ways that you've developed to keep yourself motivated and to keep going for that next goal ahead of you?
One of the things that I think this really ties into what you're doing and I think is really helpful is there are just thousands and thousands of women trying to be entrepreneurs. And any time that we can find these pockets like your community where we can say, who else is here? How can we support each other? Is there a network, a community that I can rely on? I think that's a really good place, and it has really helped me to meet other women doing so. But the other thing is, I actually find a lot of joy in bouncing ideas off of people who are in the same industry as me. So maybe they're not founders, maybe they're not entrepreneurs, but they do work in adjacent fields or they do similar types of work. And being able to talk, kind of really workshop things together. Because I think that's where the main loneliness comes from for me, is feeling like now I have a plate of problems that all the clients have given me, and now I'm on my own trying to figure them out. And I really enjoy the process of just sometimes setting up a meeting with a friend or an acquaintance and saying, I'm working on this problem with a client, and can I just bounce some ideas off of you? Or do you have any advice for me? And I think that makes us feel a lot more connected and wards off a lot of that loneliness.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think community is key, and to have someone to bounce ideas off is so important. And it's interesting you mentioned people in adjacent fields, because often customers don't always know what they want, but people who observe them can understand what they actually need without them even saying it. So I think that's
Yeah.
super interesting that you view it in that way. Like, talk to people who have a connection to your target customer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also find that one thing I know as a negotiation strategist and a kind of conversational, difficult conversations coach is a lot of these theories with people who work in adjacent industries show up in different ways or in different modes, as I'm sure we've seen for a lot of our fields. And so, even just saying, here's how I'm thinking about it, and something about it isn't feeling right, it just doesn't feel like it's quite clicking, is this principle something that you think about differently? Does it click more the way you think about it? Do you have a solution or something that just fits a little bit better than the one that I'm thinking about? And I've had a lot of friends really kindly and brilliantly workshop things and say, well, if you just tweak this way, then maybe that would work better. And that's something that I completely wasn't seeing from where I was sitting, but they were seeing from their where they were sitting, and that was great.
I love it. Love it. Super, like I said, super helpful. I'm learning loads today in this podcast. Um, Speaking about the next topic that I want to talk about. So, how long has it been since you started the business now?
It's been about a year and a half.
A year and a half in. If you look back at your journey, a year and a half in, and there's still a long way to go, I'm sure. What are some of the accomplishments that you feel most proud of, and what are you looking forward to next?
Oh boy. I think to this day, I feel really proud. This is going to sound really strange. I feel really proud when clients cry in calls with me. Um, I think it's something that is so special, and I feel like especially in a business executive coach setting, is just not something that I've experienced very often. And this new approach of saying like we all are trying to figure it out. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know, and so let's do this in partnership with each other. I've had a lot of clients cry just out of the idea of, oh, well, maybe I finally get to put this notion down, or, maybe you're not going to judge me when I say I have no idea what to do about this. So I do feel quite proud of that. And then I think the other thing that uh, happened for me, the first time it happened for me, it was really special, is the moment where someone said, do you mind if I connect you to my friend? Which is, I think, a really good indicator that something you're doing is going right.
Yeah.
Right? Someone is feeling good enough about their relationship with you that they're willing to attach you to their name and refer you to someone else. And as we know as entrepreneurs, those referrals take us really far. And because the world of marketing is so saturated, there's so much to do. And as someone who just can't find it within themselves to make a TikTok account and make the videos, it really is special to have those moments of referrals. So those are the accomplishments. And remind me what the second part of the question was.
What are you looking forward to next?
The thing that I'm looking forward to is, I think, bringing on my first hire, which is in the plan for 2026. And one of the things so my specialty is in kind of negotiation, organizational building, difficult conversations. And the person that I'm hoping to bring on and chat with studies the anthropology of leadership. And it's really looks at how different cultures historically have approached leadership and how we can use kind of those lost cultural leadership practices to change the way that we lead. And I think it's just such a cool mixing of expertise. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to.
That sounds super exciting. I mean, I'm looking forward to see more from Beyond Scale and from this team that you're going to build. I mean, that's just the first hire. Imagine what happens with the second one. So that's really great to hear, Nupur, and I wish you all the best in it.
Thank you.
My final question to you is one that we ask all the guests on this podcast. What would you say is your biggest piece of advice to women who want to start a business on their own terms, just like you've done?
Wow. My biggest piece of advice is I don't think we have to wait. I think that there is a very predominant narrative, especially when we look at social media and entrepreneurship marketing, that there is kind of a lot of stories that say, well, I was just really fed up of my job and I was just really sick of where I was, or I felt like I wasn't growing. And then I started a business. And my story is actually quite different. I was in a job that I loved with a team that I loved, and work that I wanted to do every day. And I was like, "Ah, but I have an idea. And even though this is all wonderful and exciting, I want to go do this other thing." And I don't think we have to wait for a low to start working on our high. And so if there is a piece of advice that I could give, it would be if you have your idea and you love your idea, even if things are wonderful right now, that might actually just be a great time to go start doing it because you're happy with where you are, you're doing good work, you're excited about it. And that really lowers the stakes for what you're trying to do. But also, I think it's it's easier to move from very happy to much, much happier, or very excited to much more excited than it is to move from, I don't know what to do, I'm really fed up, I'm really tired and exhausted and burnt out, to now I have this great business and this great idea and it's thriving. The leap is just so much bigger. And as someone who is not able to climb multiple stairs at a time because I'm very short, I think that idea of just saying, let me just go from one short step to the next short step, is one that I really believe in.
I love that. So well said. Thank you so much, Nupur, for your time today. It was really insightful, this entire session. I'm sure people learned a lot as well.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.